If you ever manage to get your hands on these books that the Jehovah's Witnesses published throughout the decades, one thing that you're going to notice is not only do they use words and language to convey their indoctrination and their messages, but they also use art. And the reason is that art has a way of conveying a message with expediency. What the mind cannot read and comprehend with literacy, the eyes can send messages to the brain that are very quick and easily absorbed. Though the individual might not quite realize the fullness of the message that the art is showing, the mind picks up on it, and it becomes a huge part of our psyche and how we see the world. And so there's something here with this artwork that I've retrieved from a lot of their old literature. In fact, much of it they use even today. There's something in common with all of these pictures that I want you guys to take a look at and try to determine, what do you see? Don't forget that this artwork is deliberate. It's designed to convey a message without speaking the words. What does all of this convey to you? What do you see? Now imagine that children are a part of this religion, and they've been reading the periodicals and published books that were said to be truth for many years and decades. So they see this artwork also. What do you suppose seeing this and this and this over and over and over again for years will do to the mind of a child that does not look like this and this and this? Think of the child that has a choice between two dolls. Which one do you think they will pick? If they, throughout their lives, year after year after year, see nothing but images of Jesus and the angels in heaven, everyone in heaven, and they only see this, what do you think it does to a child that looks like this? Please consider for a moment the enormous damage that is done to a child that is fed this truth by people that they respect and believe, because they've been so indoctrinated to feel that these were their leaders. And so their leaders wrote in books and called it truth, and put artwork in books and called it truth. Indoctrinated children were forced to consume over and over again. And so, because the program was very effective by these men, inspired by God, what the children could not read in literary books, that was okay, because the parents ate it all up. In fact, take a look at this. This was written in one of the periodicals of the Jehovah's Witnesses about black people. This is one of many, and it is what they believed for many, many decades. When you look at the people in the hierarchy, they never were represented by anyone that did not look like the artwork. Even at Bethel, if you wanted to apply to Bethel, you had to submit a photograph with your application. And because I knew a lot of people at Bethel, I entertained them at my home. I knew the reasons why. There were hardly any black people at Bethel for many, many decades. They had to keep up an image, you see. And it worked. because black people swallowed it up for a very long time. It wasn't until they started to question that finally, probably not more than 20 years ago, and I know this because I know many Bethelites, the governing body, I broke bread with them. Probably less than 20 years ago, they appointed a black man to the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses for the first time. And the only reason that they did that was because questions were being asked. And so, Herd was added on to the hierarchy and elite, and he played the game as well. He kept up the literature with the same visualizations to program our children. He was simply a token playing his role. And the job was effective. I mean, look at all of these books. The artwork in them. If you could only rummage through them, if you had them. These were books that were claimed to be inspired of God. The damage has been done. Look at this child. What do you think persuaded him to do what he did? Could it have been this, or this, or this? What could make such a beautiful child turn from what was so wonderfully him to something other than himself? The programming and the damage was done. The Watchtower knew that it would be effective. It maintained the hierarchy. It maintained the status and the elite class. And for so long, and even into the future, none of these parents teaching these children will ever be aware.